Benny coming?
I was just-
Supposed to use that judiciously.
I would like to call to order this May 8th, 2018 meeting of the Ascension Parish Finance Committee. Mr. Dawson, if you will lead us in the prayer and immediately followed by the pledge, and if everyone will please stand and remain so.
Let us pray. Father, we thank you for all the blessings you continue to bestow upon us and all the gifts that you've given us and how you protected this parish and you guided it. In our recent National Day of Prayer, this nation is praying for unity. There's a lot of division, and we thank you for the ability to unite, because a house divided against itself would not stand. So we thank you for the unity that we have of hearts to do the people business. So as we conduct the people business tonight, we ask for your wisdom, we ask for your knowledge to do it well. Bless all the people here, Father, and we thank you for the continued protection over this parish, this state, and this nation. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Madam Secretary, Mr. Dempsey Lambert, Mr. Councilman Satterley, Randy Cluott has just arrived, so he is here. Aaron Lawler is not present, and Benny Johnson is not present. We do have a quorum. There are no chairs additions. Excuse my throat. And I would welcome the public to, if they have an agenda item upon which they would like to comment, to please see the secretary, fill out a red or green card, and make sure that that she gets that. We'll begin tonight's meeting, and we're hoping to have this one in before 11. Will be a rarity.
You got another one after this.
Not me.
Not me.
So let's begin with item number 5 under general business. That is the introduction of Project HARP for participation in the ITEP incentive program. We welcome Kate MacArthur, our president and CEO of Ascension Economic Development Corporation. Kate, great to see you tonight.
Thanks. Well, we have another project to introduce tonight, Project HARP, which is Vega. It is a German company that is looking at putting a location in Geismar. This location would add 40 new permanent jobs with a payroll of $2.2 million and a capital investment of $9.3 million. The company has an aggressive timeline, so we started working on this project early this year, and they are quickly trying to narrow down their site selection process. Receiving the ITEP is a critical factor for choosing our site in Geismar for their new 40,000 square foot facility. The company manufactures instruments and appliances for measuring, testing, and navigation. So it's a new industry diversification project for us, where we're looking at advanced manufacturing, that's clean manufacturing, and that is high-tech manufacturing. We did our due diligence, and the company has strong financials and high credit worthiness, and the AEDC board has approved moving forward with their ITEP request. The overall direct economic impact for the parish is $388,000, with the general fund at $105,000. The ITEP exemption, the full amount would be $866,720 for years 1 through 8 is what we anticipate across the board for all taxing authorities. So here tonight I have Don Sanders and Eric Moore from Vega, and they're going to do a presentation about the specifics of their project and their potential location here.
Good evening,
Thank you,
gentlemen.
Kate. Thank you to the board for allowing us to be here tonight.
Delighted to have you.
Thank you. It's very important to us. We're looking for a Gulf Coast location. Eric and I are very dedicated to trying to do this inside of Ascension Parish, and we need your help in order to do that. The company's fairly unique. It's foreign investment coming in here. It's not an expansion of anything that's here today. The company's based in Schiltach, Germany, with U.S. operations in Cincinnati, Ohio. So they have a very good presence on the Louisiana Gulf Coast, although Eric will address later how this is a global play for us also based here. It is clean manufacturing. It is high technology. It's radar, radiometrics, things, custom fabrication. If you look up and down the chemical corridor, many of what actually operates those plants are built elsewhere. Let's build them here in Louisiana. All right, so if we could go with this gives you just a thought process of what we will be building, which is pressure vessels and instrumentation, going inside those pressure vessels for alarms and redundant level type indications. We had a video for you, not allowed, we can't play the audio internally here. I think it will be sent to each of you individually. Would appreciate if you could open it. There's 2 videos, one attached to the Cincinnati operations, one attached to the German operations. You'll see the culture of who we are and what we're going to do also. The global reach.
Yep. So as Don mentioned, initially our play is going to be here in the Americas, North, Central, and South. What we're excited about is once we establish ourselves there, pretty quickly we anticipate looking at other highly industrialized regions, particularly Southeast Asia, the Middle East, even into China, where you have pretty significant oil and gas type industries, also chemical plants and power plants. So that's exciting for us, and that's a lot of that equipment, most of it will be built right here in South Louisiana.
This is the architect's rendering. We've already engaged an architect here. Location is still being discussed, but this is based on a particular piece of property here in Ascension Parish that we're looking at. This is the building that we would be looking at constructing. At this point, it's approximately 47,000 square feet for the factory to begin with. Actually looking at raising that size already, with probably 30% of it being office space and the balance of that being production space, meaning engineering, welding, machining, everything from the professional staff to skilled labor inside the building. And we're taking into consideration traffic and everything else for the parish here. So it's going to be an extremely attractive building that gets built. Local general contractors and local architects also.
Questions for the board?
Any questions, gentlemen? Mr. Kluwat.
Appreciate you guys coming. It's a good-looking building. Appreciate your rendering having the Louisiana flag flying on it also.
We wouldn't be involved without that.
And
We're local residents.
good deal. And some of us, at least 4 or 5 of us on the council, are been associated or are in industry, and we recognize your components that you look like you're going to be, bringing down here. We appreciate this being a hub, and hopefully that if you're successful and your equipment's good, that it would be much more accessible to the people in the Ascension Parish area and in the Gulf South industrial region that we're in, and be competitive.
Sir, I think from this project right here, we can reach out to some other instrumentation companies and bring them here to Louisiana also. And like I said, if you look up and down the chemical corridor, those plants are operated, and you know this. Obviously, you do know this. And that equipment comes from elsewhere in the United States. Let's build it here.
You planning on, within your staff, you planning on having full-service engineering to spec out?
Yes, sir. Absolutely. We'll have a full.
That's one of the primary functions that we usually, some of the locals have to outsource.
They will be, in fact, we are in the process of recruiting that staff today. Even though this building will take probably 8 months of construction time, we're looking at engineers today. Along with that will be application engineering and AutoCAD, SolidWorks type people inside of there also. But that will be done in-house. R&D and sustaining engineering.
Well, if you need to move in early, we got some facilities available to rent until your big building's built.
I
Thank
can't
you,
get
sir.
there quick enough.
Right.
Mr. Dawson.
Thank you. Thank you guys for coming. I'd like for you to talk, if you don't mind, just a little bit about your the employees, the range of skills that you'll require for employees, or what type of employees you're going to have here. I see that you have 40 employees and $2.2 million in annual payroll. That's always good for us, but I'd like to hear the skill level that you're looking for.
First, the 40 employees is, in my opinion, a conservative number that's based on some existing business that Vega brings to the plate today. Okay, over time, I think we're going to see that number rise substantially for you. The skill level that we're looking for will go everywhere from mechanical engineering to electrical engineering, professional staff, welders, and we're looking for them to be artists when they come in here. They're TIG welding for us, master machinist, and skilled laborers inside of there. We will recruit the River Parishes Community College. We have a connection there today. The technical schools that are here also. This will be very good for your children.
Right.
Eric, why don't you address that?
I think in addition, additionally from skilled labor, also those electrical technicians and instruments.
Instrumentation.
Yeah, instrumentation engineers and technicians. I think I'd also like to speak too about the culture of this company. This is a facility that the German corporate headquarters. Don and I have visited. I've been there just recently, and the culture is second to none. It's a very high quality type culture, quality focused, state of the art. They are doing things to advance these technologies that other companies are not doing at this time, and to allow that to become a part of South Louisiana and done right here in our backyard is really exciting.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Cagnolotti.
Yeah, gentlemen, thank you again for coming, making the presentation. We are a parish that I guess you could say welcomes industry, and this is obviously very clean industry. You're going to be producing instrumentation, measuring devices that we use throughout industry, and it's the type of business that we look forward to, and we encourage you to continue to seek Ascension Parish for your location. Thank you.
It's our preferred choice, sir. Okay. Thank you.
So we move the resolution forward to the full council.
I have a motion by Councilman Dawson, a second by Councilman Todd Lambert to move the resolution forward to the full council. Do I hear any objections? Hearing none, that motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Item number 6. Tonight we welcome Ms. Suzanne Hamilton and the Honorable Judge Tess Stromberg to the chamber to speak about, to give the annual Mental Health Report Board. Thank you so much for being here.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity. You have in front of you our annual report for 2017, as well as a strategic plan. And both of these are documents that we put together annually because of our accreditation. We have a national accreditation, and it requires us to do these reports. So it may be a little bit more than what you requested, but I gave you what we prepare every year for them.
Delighted to have it. Thank you.
We do have an additional page that I will give you. And we put down one of the things that gets discussed a lot and that we're in discussions about is the amount of opioid addiction that's going around within not only the parish and the state and the nation, but so we just put together a few little numbers that are not in that handout that you have. Our substance abuse clients make up 25% of our client base. Our people who come from mental health are 63% of our client base, and people with co-occurring both substance abuse and mental health are 11% of our client base. But our substance abuse clients, 25%, our highest percent, are people who have opioid addictions. So 25% is opioid addiction, 19% is alcohol use, 73%, well, that's the highest number, is marijuana use. This includes all of the adolescents who come in to see us, and most of them primarily use marijuana and alcohol, so that's why those numbers are higher. And then you have our operating budget there. So everything else, I think, is self-explanatory. If you have any questions, I can address them.
Thank you, Suzanne. And Chuck, welcome. I didn't realize you were going to bring up the rear there. Thank you for being here. So I think that you all are undertaking a program that has that you have sought, or that the judges have sought assistance from you all. And so we ask Judge Stromberg and Chuck to be here to kind of elaborate on that. If you'll tell us, Suzanne, first how that got started, and then Tess and Chuck can take over from there.
They approached us about a collaboration for substance abuse treatment. So anyone who goes into drug court who has a drug arrest, the judge will have the option to put them in a treatment program as opposed to incarceration. And so what we do, I go to drug court that meets 2 days a week, 2 days a month. So I go to drug court, and anybody who gets recommended for treatment, I will just do their intake paperwork right there and schedule an appointment for them right there. The judge gives them about 30 days to get that completed, so that allows us, we reserve a day a month for all of our court-ordered people so that they don't have to wait. No matter how long the waiting list is, they will get in within the next 2 weeks. So I'll sign them up right there. If it's someone who's incarcerated, then what we do is I fax that information over to Daryl Abear at the jail, and he'll do the evaluation over at the jail for people who are incarcerated. Then we will report all of that information so that hopefully the judge has updates on everybody that she refers to treatment the next time they're in court.
Thank you. Tess?
Thank y'all for having us. As a bunch of you know, my name is Tess Stromberg, and I am Division C, which is basically Ascension Parish's drug court. Mr. Chuck Long is the Chief Assistant District Attorney that works in my court. And then we also have Chris Bridges, who is our Chief Public Defender that works in that court. We have been collaborating together with the Public Defender, the attorneys, with the District Attorney's Office to try to find a resolution. So it's not just about prosecution, because we have a different issue in that if you lock somebody up in jail, that will not necessarily fix their problem. We want to give treatment if we can, if we feel they qualify for that treatment. Mr. Turner is very familiar with this because he visits my court very often. I have a very strict policy. If you are a dealer, if you have enough to deal, or if you have guns, then you're not going into treatment. You are part of my problem. Depending on your record, and I'll let Mr. Long go into that a little bit, the District Attorney's Office will vet and try to decide who might be suitable for treatment. Our problem is we had a lot of people suitable for treatment that we couldn't get treatment from. At that point, we reached out. We met with Ms. Casso. We had members of the Sheriff's Department, and we had a meeting with President Matassa, who helped to align us with a bunch of different organizations to work together. Ms. Hamilton being central to this, in that we had a resource there, and that we needed to get people to have evaluations to know what they needed. Do they need a 10-day treatment, a 15-day treatment, a 3-year treatment, a 28-day? Our biggest issue is getting people treatment fast enough. If you're incarcerated for longer than 2 weeks without finding a bed, you are not eligible for Medicaid and get it paid for. 2 weeks is not a lot of time. Mr. Daryl Abear, who works through Ms. Hamilton's organization, sees prisoners pretty much every single day. And he has 2 weeks to see everybody and try to find them a bed. We don't pay for beds. We don't have that. We don't have facilities within Ascension Parish. He reaches out everywhere, and he is very overworked. We see a great increase in female incarceration for drug addiction, and I'll let Mr. Long go into different plans that we have. But we have basically kind of taken our court with it over the past 3 years, would you say, Mr. Long? Yeah. Turn it upside down. And so now what happens is you come in, we do our best to immediately get you in. If you're a walk-in, you go see Ms. Hamilton. If you're in the jail, you go see Mr. Abear. We want a treatment plan. We want to know what this person needs. And so then we will allow them to sign out on a treatment bond. And as long as they are complying with that, and they will come and see us maybe a month at a time, 3 months at a time, this may end up being a bigger docket for us, but at least we can follow people, drug test them, and know if they're serious. If they are not doing what they're supposed to do, then they get back in line in jail and they await for their trial. And that's really the only way that we can do this. Not everybody can be fixed, because not everybody wants to be fixed. You have to want to take advantage of that. But we have had some very good success stories. We've also lost a lot of people to overdoses. Our docket is very large. Mr. Long can address that. We are trying to do, there's really never been any record in Ascension Parish of who goes through and what happens. So we have a secretary now that I've kind of stolen in the judge's office, because we haven't asked for any additional funding for any of this. This is all of us using the funds that we have to work together, and we're monitoring where they go, when their next court date is, when they're finished. And if they do everything that they're supposed to, and sometimes we'll keep them on the hook for as long as 3 years, because an opioid addiction you don't get over in 28 days. If they do everything, if they make it in the halfway houses, if they're employed, then at that time the district attorney's office will consider reducing their charges. you got to hold that, that carrot out. Why am I doing this? Because it's not an easy process. It's a very hard process, and we know that people will fail. We only have a few places in Ascension Parish we can send them. A lot of them do not have certified addiction specialists, but we still need them. So we have gotten with Ms. Hamilton, and they are working directly with her to use her certified addiction specialist. So I want to thank y'all for letting us use this great resource. We have given her more clientele than she ever saw coming. When she first met with me, she was like, yeah, you've got quite the drug court, and we've had to expand her days, and we keep asking for more, and unfortunately, we're going to need to keep doing that, but she's been very accommodating, so I'd like to thank y'all and thank Ms. Hamilton for her staff's hard work, and we're going to need more help from them. Mr. Long?
Yeah, thank you. Charles, Assistant District Attorney. I just want to let y'all know, and I'm sure most of y'all realize this, we do have a very severe drug problem in our parish. I screen on average 10 to 20 cases a week and decide whether or not, like the judge says, that these might be drug dealers or whether they're drug addicts that need treatment. Ms. Hamilton, through the cooperation of the president and, of course, the funding that y'all given this particular department is severely needed, and I'm glad we finally got them plugged in to send people to a treatment center, like the judge said, rather than keep them in jail for 3 to 5 months and then finally do something with them and put them on probation, and they still have the problem. You don't solve the problem by putting people on probation. You solve this problem, unfortunately, by treatment, and it's statistics we'll find out shortly after a couple of years of this. We're going to find out not one treatment is normally sufficient to really treat an addict. They fall off the wagon, so to speak, unfortunately, because they go back into the same environment they came from. We can't correct all the ills, but I think if we focus on at least getting them properly evaluated like we're doing, and at least some sort of treatment, we can try and reduce them to just putting them in jail, because that's the only other alternative we have. I mean, you keep violating the law, and with drug addiction, a lot of them are picked up in automobiles. You'd be surprised on how many of these drug addicts that are arrested because they're violating road laws, riding up and down our streets, either hyped up on methamphetamine or opioids, and now the new thing is heroin, unfortunately. And I'll leave you with this to have you really understand. Early on, when we thought of drug addicts, I'm talking about 20, 30, 40 years ago, you thought about the junkie on the street shooting up a needle, okay? And that was just like, well, that's the way it is. Today, when you look around, if you go to Walmart or something, you can't tell who the junkie is, actually, to be quite honest. They've masked this very well. And the most recent development I came across that I thought was surprising is that they're now selling it prepackaged in a syringe for you. So just imagine that. You can buy it now already loaded in a syringe to shoot up. And if you really think about that, you think about how dangerous that really is, because you don't know what's in a syringe. But that's the latest dealing technique I've come across that I thought was absolutely ridiculous, that we have people out there that are offering for sale a loaded syringe with God knows what in it, and people actually buying that and injecting it into their body. So this thing has turned to a very serious problem. I don't know if Ms. Hamilton, she's attempting to do a good job. I just told her a minute ago she needs more staff, in my opinion. We are from the district attorney's office point of view, we're trying to do a balancing act. Who should be in treatment based on their record and based on what they've been doing all their life and based on the current drug abuse, who should be incarcerated. It's a very hard decision to make. We try to err on the side of maybe the addiction caused the problems that they've been having for the last 4 or 5 years, and at least give them one chance to go into a treatment program to prove that they deserve the second and third chance through drug court. We can only do as much as we can, and we appreciate y'all's support. We hope Ms. Hamilton staffs up enough, because I can open the gates a little bit wider and send her a whole lot more. But we have to be careful that sending her 30 people a month, I don't know really if she can handle that. But there's the demand. So I want to thank y'all, and I want to thank the judge and Ms. Hamilton and the president for getting this program plugged into our drug court system.
Tess, Chuck, and Suzanne, I want to personally thank you for the efforts that you are undertaking. In the 1950s, the people of this parish, in what was a rare thing at the time, taxed themselves for mental health. I cannot imagine in those days that they had ever dreamed what these resources would be used for today, particularly by their children and their grandchildren. And so it is so emotional for me. I cannot imagine what you all see every day. And I hope that this effort together is going to turn the tide on this. I would encourage you, Suzanne, to the depth of your money and resources in mental health, ramp up, because these children are our future. And if we lose them, then we are, nothing that these folks did back in the 1950s will have made a big difference. Thank you so much. Does anyone else have any questions or comments? Mr. Kluot.
First of all, Suzanne, thank you very much. Tess, as always, you guys, we appreciate this court system. Chuck, on a personal note, we all feel your pain, the loss of your father here within the last week and a half. And we're with you, and we appreciate you hanging in there. We know we fought with juvenile. We fought with every course, and you know, Terry sits there and she's going to grab a child, a newborn, to be exact, that's born addicted, you know, things like that. And I'm looking at your demographics here, Suzanne, on page 3. It's quite amazing. It's shocking. We know that we don't want to incarcerate everyone. We want to try to help them. I agree with you, Chuck, giving people I've known throughout my life that it takes 3, 4 cycles, 5 cycles, 10 to 15 years for people to truly get out of the addiction they're in. I've been quite upset for over 10 years now, based on some of the personal people I know, that the amount of doctors we've had, and I think 2020 somebody did something just a little while back on it, that are handing out this pain medicine. They're no better than the junkies and the drug dealers that we all grew up with. Okay, and I'll say that in public on TV. So I think we're going to end up developing a lot more than just some help. This has gone bad. I have friends and relatives in law enforcement. Y'all know, because they're getting them and they're bringing them to y'all. And it's just unreal. Chuck, you're 100% right. You can walk in Walmart, you can walk in church on Sunday, and you really don't know who's addicted to drugs and who's not, based on the way they get them and the ability to get them. And there's no racial, nor there's no economic divide there. And it's really a killer to the families. So we appreciate everything you guys are doing. I'm sure this is not the end of the road that we will be hearing from you guys. I'm sure that some type of services will be expanded. We appreciate you looking into any kind of funding, any types of grants, and I would think that the administration would work with you on that. And I'm sure you research some of your own stuff, but you know, anything even in the court system, any expanded things that's coming down. We've been to Washington, D.C. multiple times and talked about this, and it's a nationwide problem. It's not just here. So anything we can do to help y'all. Thank y'all very much.
Mr. Turner.
Yes, just a couple of quick questions. As far as what's the maximum number of people they can take in per month? The maximum number they can take in per month?
By who?
By Suzanne.
We can take approximately, in terms of new people, we have 7 counselors that each do 1 new intake per day, except we have that one day that reserved for court referred people. We do 2 per day. They all do 2 per day. So that's approximately how many we can take. Now that's split over both the mental health and the substance abuse people. That's not just being able to handle the people who come from court. But we are currently, we've been short-staffed since about June of last year. We're currently fully staffed. It takes us almost 4 months to get somebody trained to do the substance abuse evaluations and recommendations. So we have 3 new people who are currently going through that process. Once everybody gets fully trained, we are going to be reevaluating, do we need to add an additional person? And we do have the money in the budget to be able to do that. So probably around June-ish, July, something maybe end of summer, we'll be making a decision about whether or not we need to add someone. Now, currently, anybody who comes to us that's referred through the courts, especially if they qualify for public defender services, we just see them free of charge. They come for their evaluation and all of their treatment for free.
So, the private attorney clients are going to have to pay?
I'm sorry? Well, we take a look at that. A lot of them have insurance, so we do try to use insurance and other means so that all of the funds that we get, the public funds, we can spread them as far as possible. But we also do have a sliding scale fee, so if anybody is paying out of pocket, we can reduce that to even down to $5 if they need that.
And y'all did say as far as the criteria, the end of the program is going to be just based on their record and the amount of drugs they allegedly had?
It depends. We evaluate it to see what type of, what type of criminal are they?
Be careful, Chuck, he might hold you to that.
Well, you have to look at their criminal history to determine whether or not you want to, and I hate to say this, devote the public resources to rehabilitation of that particular person. If that criminal history is 25 years long and it consists mainly of burglaries and other personal crimes against people, you know, and this is the first time they get caught with some kind of drugs, that's not necessarily a drug addict. This is a serial criminal that doesn't deserve treatment, to be quite honest, from our point of view, from the prosecution's point of view. But if you look at it, and it's a bunch of, how would I say, minimal crimes, okay, and you look at it, in between each one of those, they've been arrested for some kind of drugs, you know, possession of some kind of drug. You can tell real quick that this person has been afflicted with drugs, and it's the drugs are causing them to do things. After you do a couple hundred of them or thousands of them, like I've done, you can read them, and it's simply a prediction on how well they'll function through the treatment program, but it's a criteria you have to look at. There are some people that try to go through treatment to escape jail. Not really to get treatment, but just because they know that if they, oh, I want treatment, Mr. Long, they'll get out of the jail when they belong. Some people belong in jail. Let me just put it to you, okay? Some people deserve to be there. Those we try and keep there. There's no rehabilitation for that career criminal that deserves to be in jail. I'm sorry. But for the younger people, who it looks like with the criminal history, that the reason they got a criminal history is because of a drug addiction, those are the ones we try and save. We can't save everybody, just to be honest.
And just one other question. Just for the general public, I know most people don't know they're not in drug court every day. Roughly how many open cases do you have at a time?
I tried to get that number today, I'll be honest with you. I can't tell you that. There's too many different numbers from too many different sources. We'd have to nail that down a little bit. I would say, what was the last number you got, Judge, from the clerk?
I don't remember off the top of my head. I can give you that, but I think what's also important is our number's going to be riding a little bit higher for a while because we're not closing cases as quickly. You know, we're not trying to, the ones that need to be tried are being pushed to trial as quickly as possible. The ones that are going to be rehabbed, they're going to ride our docket for probably a year or 2 or 3 to allow them to rehab during that period. Okay, once they fall off, they're on the quick trial.
Right.
And honestly, we process more cases than any other division. We also close more cases than any other division. Not that those judges and ADAs are working any less than we are, but because of the nature of the beast, if you get pulled over for a headlight, or if you rob a bank, if you've got any kind of a rock in your pocket, you're ours. You know, it just depends on, if you've got drugs, you come to us. If you don't have drugs, you go to everybody else and get divided among them. So we have a very heavy workload.
I would say when we're doing the follow-up reports to the court every month, when we following people who are in treatment. That's a list of about 35 or 40. Doing that.
Yeah, just wanted the general public to get a sense of how large those dockets are. Kind of most days they're in there for like 9 to 5, if not a little
Without
longer.
a doubt. I mean, this is our drug court week, which is always the first full week of the month in Ascension. Y'all are welcome to come. Travis was with us on Monday, but I can tell you each docket is well over 100 pages for each day, not counting the add-ons. And each page can have 5 to 6 people.
Wow. Mr. Dawson?
I had one question. Suzanne, do you know how the opioid, you have 25%, do you know, has that been increasing over the past few years, or do you know what the trend there?
Tracking that number, so I'm not really sure about
Okay.
that, but we,
Okay.
our electronic records don't allow us to track in that way, so it's something that every record manually to figure out, so it would take me a while.
Okay.
Happy to do that. Couple of months.
Well, I mean, I assume that it is increasing.
It
Yeah,
I can tell you it is.
yeah.
It's a broad spectrum, but, and I say that because it's not just opioids, it's methamphetamine is, for some reason, is off the charts also with the gambit of the opioids and stuff, but, from what I've seen in the last 5 years, it's been, drug abuse has been, arrests for drug abuse has increased significantly,
Yeah.
and I think that's an effect of the society's more using it more. That's all I can say.
So I'd like to just take a minute and thank everybody, all three of you, and thank Councilwoman Casso has been involved in this. Everybody's been involved, that you guys struck out on your own, and you just did this, and it's as we all know, it's a growing problem and a serious problem that we have in Ascension Parish. And I, for one, am thankful for what y'all did.
And again, we've had the public defender's help, we've had the sheriff's department's help, we've had the parish president's help, St. Elizabeth Hospital has stepped up. A lot of different people have come forward to work with us on this, to try to help us and offer help without getting taxpayers. So we have a lot of people to thank for this.
It's really been a collaborative effort on the part of all of the stakeholders in our parish, and we are very grateful. Thank you, Mr. President, for allowing us to do this, and thank you all for being here today to share with the public the wise expenditure of the funds that they so generously give you in this millage. Thank you very much.
Appreciate it, guys.
Any other questions? Mr.
Just real quick,
Cagliari.
Madam Chairman, I have high praise for all of you and the administration for giving this the attention it's long deserved. But there's a fine line with someone who has mental illness. And I saw where you even have a statistic, someone who has both mental illness and drug addiction, which is, it compounds the situation. But, you have to make that decision whether someone belongs in jail or do they have mental illness. And if they have mental illness, they need treatment, not to be incarcerated. So I praise you all for what you do. We're thankful that you're there. And we'll keep supporting you as long as it takes.
Regardless of what they identify. We're going to do an evaluation.
Right.
Best and substance, definitely.
Thank you.
Appreciate it, guys.
Thank y'all very much.
Thank you. Head to that ballpark, Tess. Item number 7, amendment to the monitoring contract between River Parish Security Systems and the East Ascension Parish and Ascension Parish government to include burglary to the Department of Public Works, East Main Shop Building, for an additional $105 per quarter.
So moved, Madam
I have a
Chairman.
motion by Councilman Todd Lambert.
Second.
Second by Councilman Randy Kluwat. Any questions? Any objections? Hearing none, that motion passes. Item number 8, an amendment number 1 to professional services contract between Ascension Parish Government and Mujo Architecture LLC to adjust the estimated cost of the contract for design services of the construction of a new main station in Sorrento for a new not to exceed amount of $212,220.
Second.
You got
I have
Mr.
I have a motion by Councilman Kluwat, a second by Councilman Todd Lambert. Are there any questions?
So can we get a progress? Can we get a real
Absolutely.
quick
Gene, could
progress
you-
report? Who is it, Cody or Gene? How's the
Somebody, because I certainly have a question.
Wayne?
So what was, Gene, give us an update, and then we'll see if that maybe answers our questions.
Okay. Yes, these three amendments have to deal with the three main stations that we are getting rebuilt. From the original contract, it was discovered that there was going to have to be dirt work, basically, going to have to be lifted up, remediation, pilings, and all this is driving up the cost of these buildings, and that was not reflected in the original contract. And that's the reason for asking for the amendment. Hopefully, we may be within a month away of going out for bids on these three sites. So it's moving along very quickly.
Any other questions? Mr. Kluwat.
Jane, Cody, all you guys with the fire departments, thank you very much. Look, y'all been fighting this for a long time, working with planning and zoning. We felt like a decent amount of it might have been bureaucracy, and for the type of change that you have to do to your structure, I know these look like high dollar amounts, but that's pretty decent amount of engineering changes and all.
Actually, we've been getting very excellent cooperation. I think if we didn't get the cooperation we've been getting, we wouldn't be as far along as we are now and getting ready to bid. So all the departments that worked with us, we thank them very much.
Thank you, sir. We're happy to hear that. Any
Chairwoman
other
Kezzo,
questions?
maybe I can help. What happened
Absolutely.
here is that these contracts were negotiated on the state facility management percentage rates. And so when the cost of the project succeeded, that's why they came to ask for the increase in the fees, because it was all based on a percentage of the cost of the building.
That's a helpful explanation. Thank you, Mr. Parrington. Any other questions? We have a motion and a second. Any objections? Hearing none, that motion passes.
Thank you.
So item number 9, amendment number 3 to the master contract for professional services between Ascension Parish Government and Muzo Architecture, LLC, to adjust the estimated cost of the contract for design services of the construction of a new station, number 60 in Santa Monica, Louisiana, for a not-to-exceed amount of $211,455.41.
Motion.
Motion by Mr. Kluwat, second by Mr. Joseph. Any further questions? Hearing none. Any objections? Hearing none, that motion passes. Item number 10, amendment number 1 to professional services contract between Ascension Parish Government and Mujo Architecture, LLC, to adjust the estimated cost of the contract for design services of the construction of a new main station number 80 in Geismar, Louisiana, not to exceed $212,953.91. Have a motion by Mr. Dawson. Second.
Mr. Joseph.
Second by Mr. Joseph. Any questions? Any objections? Hearing none, that motion passes. Item number 11, the monthly contracts report. Ms. Sandra.
Good evening. You have before you a list of the contracts that we entered into in the month of April. Do you have any questions?
Gentlemen, does anyone have any questions regarding the monthly contract report?
Nope. Not me.
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am.
All right, hearing none, we will move along. Item number 12, the budget amendment number 3, approval to introduce an ordinance to amend the 2018 budget. Ms. Dawn Caballera.
Good evening. You have before you the ordinance for budget amendment number 3, which reads as follows. An ordinance to amend the ordinance approving, adopting, and appropriating the 2018 operating and capital budgets for the Parish of Ascension, adopted by the Ascension Parish Council on the 30th day of November 2017. Section 1. The Ascension Parish Council hereby ordains that the ordinance approving, adopting, and appropriating the 2018 operating and capital budgets for the Parish of Ascension is hereby amended, approved, and appropriated as follows. Operating budget, general fund. Ascension Parish Citizen Service Center. This is a new department to create the Ascension Parish Citizen Service Center. Expenditures, salaries exempt, $4,000. Salary non-exempt, $19,000. FICA tax expense, $2,000. Retirement, $2,000. Health, life, dental insurance, $10,000. Health savings account, $1,000. Professional services, $70,000. Workman's compensation, $500. And operating supplies, $10,000.
Mr. Dawson?
But there you are. Did I see this, a department, AP Citizen Service Center Department?
It's a department in the general fund, yes. A new department.
So I don't, is that going to be a separate ordinance to create that department? How's that going to be created?
That's what the budget ordinance does,
Creates the department?
with these line item expenditures in it, yes.
An office in a department under OEP, if you understand what I'm saying. It's got to have its own budget, but it's not a,
No, it's the department in the general fund. OEP is gonna be over it, right?
correct, but it's,
Yeah.
right, it's being operated through OEP.
So we
I
need
know
some,
that.
so I think we need some clarification on whether we have created another department from a perspective of the organization, or have we created a department in a budgetary sense?
Well, that was my question. I mean, if you say department on here, then the charter is pretty specific about that. Well, then we need to strike this, you want to strike this language that has department and replace that with office?
Is that possible in your work, Dawn?
They're using it as an accounting term. You're not creating a
Right.
department. You're using, I don't know how, I'm
This is
not,
a budget.
it's a budget accounting term.
Okay, all right. Any other questions?
Well, I
Mr.
did-
Dawson, do you
I'm
want to
not-
continue to, I assumed
So
so.
can, and tell me, what is the $70,000 professional services, what is that for?
That is for the $50,000 for the new software, and then $20,000 is it's for Everbridge, which is another part of the software that they needed, reverse 911, is what they explained to me from OEP.
So this is software?
Yes.
Okay. I'm still hung up on the department, I'll be honest
Okay,
with you.
well, this is strictly a budget term.
Because, I mean, it's either a department or it's not a department, and I don't,
Could you change it to read account rather than department? You're
it doesn't
creating
matter to
another
me, it's
account?
not my deal, but if it says department, I think it's a department.
Right, department, and put office there, please,
There you go, okay.
and let that reflect in the minutes. It's an office under the Department of OEP.
So I would make that amendment, offer
Absolutely.
that amendment.
Second.
Have a motion by Mr. Dawson and a second by Mr. Todd Lambert to amend the motion to read, to create Ascension Parish Citizen Service, Office of, let's say, to create the Office of Ascension Parish Citizen Service.
Okay.
Mr. Kluot.
Yeah, Dawn or Gwen, whomever, in finance, this just a common term. Do we
It
have
is,
other?
but I just want to make sure we're clarifying it, how,
Are we getting away from something that we need on the finance side in our terminology?
Do
That's
what
what I'm
now?
asking. I'm just asking the question. Y'all been running finance. This is a line that you name, so I don't have a problem with it. I just want to know where the money went, and I know,
We can put it under the
but I'm
Department
saying.
of OEP. That would be the only other alternate. Would be commingled with OEP. Yeah, it won't be separated.
So,
We
Yeah.
just talk.
I'm just,
I mean, we would.
it's under
I'm
amount
just
you're telling us.
asking that it's going, OEP's gonna, it's gonna come, I know where the work's gonna be done. and we know that is for software and to facilitate that, was it necessary to have another line item in the budget specifically for it, or just amend OEP's budget? Okay, if everybody's scared of department,
Okay.
I'm just asking. Okay?
OEP's in the general fund also as a department.
It was my understanding that they as in OEP, Rick, wanted it separate to be able to track it and do statistics on it.
That's
I'm not-
thank you. That's what we need to know. That's what we need to know.
Well, nobody asked me.
It's just a line item. So we're not building a new building and hiring a bunch of people.
It's their expenses.
I think, just want to clear that up.
Okay.
I'm good with it. Thank you.
So we have an amended motion and a second. Do we have any objections to that amended motion? Hearing none, that motion passes. Item number 13, sales and use tax report. Ms. Gwen.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Will you have before you your regular sales and use tax report? It's quite obvious that the month-to-date comparisons to 17 as well as the year-to-date in all three of our sales tax districts are down. The sectors that it's across the board, but the largest decrease became with the chemical plants. And that's why East Ascension Drainage is also affected now, plus the two cities on the east side, Gonzales and Sorrento, their sales tax reports were down too. It was kind of a double hit for East Ascension Drainage. Compared to the budget, the budget is at 25% of the year. We're just a few portions of a percent below that. The budget was actually, we compared it to 2013, and that's where these figures, the budget figures came from. With some announcements that are coming and have already come, you know, hopefully things will look better in the future. And you can see the same thing with all the charts, even though it's based on just the 1%. You can see how 18 year-to-date is down, and the pie chart, and then also the historical chart. Another reason was because in the first quarter of 17, there was a drop in in audits compared to 18. It was 700,000 less in 18 than compared to in 18 compared to 17. And also due to the flood, the motor vehicles are down so much. They were down at the end starting with 17, and they're still down. And just a normal effect of people already have purchased all their new vehicles.
Any questions? Mr. Dawson?
Todd, you want to go?
I just had a comment on the vehicles. I talked to several dealerships, and yes, they are hurting right now. There's a lot of them are hurting.
They're down.
Because they sold so many cars during the flood that, a lot of people have new cars, and right now it's at a kind of a standstill. It's going to take a little while for that to turn back around.
Absolutely.
So
Mr.
I guess for me, and not being here a long time like Todd and the rest of them, this is the first time I've seen us below our numbers on the budget. So currently, we're at 25% of the year, and we're below on all three of those. In one case, almost 1.5%. So, I guess if that rate continues, then we're looking at having to do some budget amendments because the revenue projections might be off more than 5%. Is that correct?
That's correct, yeah, if they're more than 5%.
Any other questions or comments? All right, we'll move along to item number 15, to accept the lowest responsive oops, I'm sorry, Revenue and Expenditure Report. Miss Amanda.
Good evening. Before you are the normal financial reports for the month of March 2018. Page 1, revenues are at 23.32%. Page 2, expenditures are at 33.10% at 25% of the year. On page 3 are charts that compare year-to-date revenue and expenditure for both operating and capital to the budget. Page 4 and 5 gives you the brief explanation of funds that are highlighted on page 1 and 2 that are under the budget for revenue or over the budget for expenditures by 5% or more. And the last page reflects our checks issued over 100,000 for the month of March, and the total of the checks are $2,861,044.15. Once you review the report, if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Gentlemen, does anyone have any questions of Miss Amanda? Hearing none, we'll move along to item number 15, the bid items, to accept the lowest responsive bid. Ms. Jones.
Good evening. On April 5th, 2018, the Purchasing Department received 3 bids for riprap price per ton. After review, the Purchasing Department and the Department of Public Works recommend accepting the lowest responsive bid from Bear Industries and to authorize the parish president to enter into any applicable agreement or contract for this material.
I have a motion by Mr. Todd Lambert, a second by Mr. Cagnolotti. Any questions? Any objections? Hearing none, that motion passes.
On April 27, 2018, the Purchasing Department received 1 bid for an all-purpose stage deck with accessories. After review, the Lamar Dixon Expo Center and the Purchasing Department recommend accepting the lowest responsive bid submitted by Stage Right Corporation and to authorize the parish president to enter into any applicable agreement or contract for this material.
Motion.
A motion by Mr. Kluwat, a second by Mr. Todd Lambert, and I have a question. How much was that, how much is our stage, at deck and accessories?
Yeah, the price. Usually have the
I'm not
price.
sure. The budget was $95,000, and I think it's an itemized list. Darrell, do you know how many bridges there, stages? How many?
So a total of $95,000.
It looks like a complete stage is, what, about $6,000?
I'm not overly worried about the, I mean, I can find out the initial ones, but how much is it total?
Let me pay attention to the question. Oh, this one, let's see, I'm not sure.
Yeah, how much was the lowest responsive bid?
Right.
That's what you need to know, because you don't know how many tons of rock you're gonna buy, but we don't know how many stages you're
No,
gonna buy either.
yeah.
We just wanna know what's the dollar value of what was bid.
It looks like a bid is about $6,380 for all of the components of one stage. So that number is gonna be, doesn't say how many on the bid notice that they're gonna actually purchase.
All right, okay, so this is, so we don't have a total, but it's not anywhere near $95,000.
This was Daryl's project, maybe she can help me out.
Yeah, I mean, we're looking at, I mean, if does everybody have a copy of the work? I mean, it's not nearly that much money. I don't want the public to believe we're spending $95,000 on a stage when what we've got here is a very small amount of money compared to that.
Each of the components were bid separately. They did budget 95,000, and the components that they did request prices on came very, very close to that amount.
So it's like $200. There may have been 10 of those requests.
Oh, I see, okay.
That's one.
Okay.
Wow, how about that?
Each of these is the price of one item.
Yeah, that's what I'm
You're right,
saying. So the
exactly.
quantities over here.
Yeah,
may-
the quantities were large. There might have been 63 of this one item, 45 of another item, 15 of another item. If y'all want an itemized breakdown, I could send it to you.
Yeah, but what I would like in the future is a total.
Yeah, the budget.
You know, what did we,
We'll make sure that happens.
Okay, thank you very much, appreciate that. Any other questions? Mr. Joseph?
Okay, this just stages that they're gonna have doing for concert, for
Yes,
the
sir.
balloon festival? Okay,
Kind of a portable stage, you know how you can disassemble, and they're all in different sections, so.
we gonna
Yes,
own
we-
it, or we just
Yeah,
renting it?
No, we own it.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well, I
excellent.
mean, it'd be nice, okay, I'm gonna keep my mouth shut, okay. All right.
Mr. Kluwat?
Yeah, I've rented Lamar Dixon a couple times. Stages, whatever building you want stage, if you rent it for a graduation party or grandma's birthday or whatever, it's the metal stages. That's that. That's why I wanted to know the total, see where the total's at. We got that 97,000.
Yeah, 97,000. All right, thank you very much, appreciate that. So we have a motion, I don't remember who it was, I apologize. A motion by Mr. Kluwat, a second by Mr. Lambert. Any further questions? Any objections? Hearing none, that motion passes. And the chair would entertain a motion to adjourn. So moved by Mr. Cagnolotti and seconded by Mr. Lambert. Thank you very much, boys and girls.
Budget.